You're listening to the Ottawa Homeboys podcast, your go-to source for Ottawa real estate and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Aboozar Sheikhi, Burton, and Ahmad Hassan. This podcast is about the real estate market in Ottawa and housing advice. But the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact the Homeboys or any licensed real estate professional for specific recommendations before you make decisions about your real estate needs.
Welcome to another episode of Ottawa Homeboys. I'm Aboozar Sheikhi.
Burton, nice to be here. Thanks for having me on,
absolutely.
Aboozar.
Every time. So what's going on, man? Let's talk about your week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's happening with the sales, the activity, and then we'll get into the recent numbers for month of August, just to see, just to give the listeners and the viewers the feel for what's going on for the beginning of the fall market. And usually,
No, nice to catch up with you again, Aboozar. I'm looking forward to hearing what you've been up to lately as well. Like you're saying, we have some numbers for August month over month, and then some interesting stuff to get into there. And then topic of conversation today is going to be analyzing investment properties.
That's right.
And I know we touched on condos as investments last time we chatted, so we'll look at freehold and multifamily.
And overall, what are we looking at? Like, what's good for investment?
That's it.
Well, what should we do as an investor? You should be going after for it to be worthwhile and for it to balance the sheets and even get into surplus, perhaps.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, no, my week has been good. Nice pick up like we typically see around this time of year. I think, if you stay in tune with what's happening in Ottawa's real estate market yearly, there's typically two pretty strong selling seasons. Spring is almost always busy.
Yeah.
That's basically going to be right from April until the first 2 weeks of June.
Yeah.
From those last 2 weeks of June to maybe the last week August, the first week of September, activities often a little bit lower. There's a lot of families that are on vacation. There's a lot of different things happening in people's lives. So had a nice little pickup with fall coming around. Had one buyer win in multiple offers.
Good.
Multiple offers are still happening. Not sure if you've been dealing with any of those yourself.
I haven't. Thankfully not. I mean, it depends on which side of
that's
which side of the table you're sitting on.
So I've dealt with it on both sides lately, and I'm finding it's definitely particular to like property types and little markets within the big market. That one was a very well priced freehold perfect starter home, and just did a lot of the right things, like jumping in for a viewing pretty quickly, getting an offer in pretty quickly. Still with conditions, so it's not that type of market. Right.
Yeah.
But we knocked off conditions and moved forward with a firm deal, which is great to hear. I am conditional with one other right now. See what happens after the inspection.
Good.
It's always interesting, an inspection on a 125-year-old home.
Yeah,
So,
that's. I mean, it's always a challenge with those things. Right?
You gotta
be ready for anything, right?
So, how's things on your side? What have you been up to?
Things are good. Just touching base with clients, and we just firmed up a condo deal that is going to close next month. So that's that, and getting ready, prepping a couple of listings coming in mid-October.
Amazing.
So hopefully we'll catch the tide, as you mentioned, right?
Exactly.
The pre winter.
Do our 5 listeners get a sneak peek at what those are?
I got there's gonna be a condo coming in the Let area, so that's a 1-bedroom. So those are always nice because it just falls into a sweet price bracket. Affordability wise.
Huge news in that area too, right?
With the Sands, right, relocating. So I mean, it's always there's always a cons and pros to what the feedback is overall. But again, it's just it's the spot to be in. I mean, I think if the Sands don't go in, someone else will scoop it up, and essentially, eventually it would be either Claridge will expand with the additional units or whatever the case is. So Yeah, so that's that, and then another unit that's coming on. It's going to be in a townhome in Central Park. So that's just off of Merivale and Baseline for those who are looking for a townhome. So that would be a nice medium unit.
Nice hidden gem neighborhood too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Central,
so high,
parks all around
higher
you.
demand.
Right.
And you got just nice plaza close by, Walmart, and so on. Yeah. So that's that. So yeah, getting ready for listings, wrapping up listings to be closed, and a couple of buyers as well that are, we're showing condominiums and different concepts to them. But I feel like some are just buyers. They're just either they're getting into it or they're feeling the market for the time being before they pull the trigger, as we say. But yeah,
it's nice to have that experience as well too, right? I just got out with a new buyer this week, and it's a friend of a friend that I'm searching with, and the friend said, yeah, he's going to be ready to go. He might make an offer on the first one he sees. He likes it that much. Well, no worries, the offer didn't come, but we talked a lot about his search at the time, and then we expanded actually the options that were available to him. And I think there's a lot of benefit of taking your time with that search, because you learn about new neighborhoods that you might not have been familiar with. You learn what you can get up to a certain price point, and you really reprioritize your wants and your needs. And for him, for example, needs were secure parking, because he travels quite a bit. So one of the ones we had seen when we were out on that first visit did not have that. So you learn a lot as you go, and it's important to take the time
and it's a never-ending learning curve with real estate, right? We always, and that's the fun thing about it, right? You're in it, and every day is different, and the next, and you keep learning, and then
exactly. Yeah.
That's what keeps us going.
So we have some market stats here as well.
Yeah, quite a, I was actually, it's very interesting, especially considering that it's a bit of a slower month, typically August, right? What do we have then?
So looking at it from the top, Aboozar, we have sales activity for August 2025, and that was 1236. So 1,236 units sold. That is a 12.1% increase from August 2024.
So that's a jump.
That's quite a jump.
Yeah.
I think that does go back to what we were talking about, that maybe the tail end of August was a pretty strong uptick. I think so, but yeah, continuing on, new listings and active listings were the next one that I typically look at, Aboozar. So new listings are 2121. 2,121 new listings in August 2025. That is also up, and that's up 8.6% year over year.
Okay.
And active listings are at 33,971.
And how many months of inventory do we have now?
Months of inventory was 3.2, so that's stable year over year. Some really interesting trends on here with these ones that we're chatting about.
And the average price for a home?
Average price was $686,500. And that's up again. That's up 3.6% year over year.
Okay, but I'm assuming the stat we have here, it's taking into factor all types of property, right? If we were looking at a single home, so some people are like, what are you talking about? I just saw a single home that was like 800,000. I keep seeing the 900,000. Where are you getting the stats? So this is basically taking into factor townhomes, semis, single detached homes, as well as I think even condos have been taken into factor. So the condos really drag the prices. But again, this is an overall idea of what we're looking at as far as activity. So
good point mentioning that, Aboozar. This is a catch-all, and this is the one that Ottawa Real Estate Board, OREB, typically I find uses for their market updates. So I like this one myself personally to get a pulse on what's happening across the market. If you are actively searching or actively planning to list, definitely I would say it'd be beneficial to narrow that down.
You can definitely reach out to us, and we have all the stats, right?
Exactly.
We can pull the stats for the singles, for the semis, rows, the townhomes, each individually. We can tell you exactly what the average is, just send you the comparables for year over year, month to month.
Yeah, I love that, Aboozar.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of these trends going back even further too, just before we jumped on, and I thought there were a few that were interesting that thought it'd be worth chatting with you about as well. Sales activity, like we said, it was up 12.1% year over year. If you go back another year, it's actually up 23% from August 2023, steady to August 2022.
And this was the height of,
and that was the height basically of all of the decrease that happened after COVID, right? So to see a 23% increase from that, I mean, that's, I'd say even the 12% increase year over year was pretty significant. That's quite a jump.
It is interesting. So it is a battle between the average prices, because they have dropped, right, since the 21-22 period. So, but that's basically, we're seeing the sales increase based on those, but still it's a positive thing, I feel, considering year over year, you're looking at, 24 and 23, and we're still up.
100%.
Considering, and specifically looking at 24, because I think the average price between 24 and 25, they're very similar. So it's a really good trade to follow, as opposed to, for example, 22 or 21. So being up year over year, that shows you that buyers are getting back into it, more certainty in a sense. And we'll see how 2026 will be.
Like you said, the certainty is the big thing with that for me. I think there's a lot of natural reasons to get into the market, and time is a big one of that too, right? Your family grows, your personal circumstances improve, stuff like that. That's always going to bring you to a point where you may consider a purchase or a move, right? So it's nice to know that the market is not so hectic that it's disrupting that, right?
Exactly. And it's about, I would say it's maybe a couple of months from now, when hopefully when things settle down more economically, perhaps, again, with the our neighbors down south and all the uncertainty there is impacting as well. But already I'm seeing the stock market bouncing back. So there's slowly, the capital's being built up with all the investors and so on. And if continues this way into 2026, then essentially would not be, we might not be as crazy busy as market wise with the heated market, multiple bids and so on, but a more of a balanced market where buyers have more still good options to pick from.
I thought the other one that was interesting, Aboozar, was the average price. So up 3.6% year over year, as we said. Stable again the year before that. Going back 3 years to August, it's up 6.6% from 2022, which is huge, right? And this does it does 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and then jumps to 5 year, and then 10-year trend. So the 5-year trend is that it's up 20%, and then the 10-year trend is that it's up 86%.
Wow.
So I mean, if you talk about reasons for home ownership, right?
There's no argument. I mean, we can always get into that, rent versus ownership or whatever. I mean, it is a long game, right? No one's gonna claim anything. You're gonna be rich in 2 or 3 years, sort of a thing. It does happen. I mean, a lot of individuals, benefited from the whole COVID, but historically, you're looking at the trend. How often does that happen? And if you're a keeper, you're looking at a 5 to 10 year span. There's no argument. There's enough capital built up, and then you can do various things with that.
I think that just goes back to your why for why you would get into the market, and then for us as agents to educate and have those conversations with buyers early. That really it's a 5+ year process. Like you said, maybe there's some wins in the short term. Maybe you buy with some equity, force equity, get a nice little market boost, but not looking at those and looking at the big picture. That 20% jump on a 680 average sales price. What is that? That's almost 120K, right? Maybe more than 120K. So it's a huge amount.
Right? It is. Absolutely. Let's talk about investments. What is the best thing? Again, it goes back to many variables right? What is your affordability? I guess even as an investor, the amount you get qualified for. Some do have they're fortunate enough to have that flexibility with the budget they have. So there's a lot of range to play around with, whether it's a $500,000 or $600,000 unit, or whether it's a $1 million duplex sort of a thing to play around with. But perhaps most don't.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what budget we're looking at for an investor to get into, and at the same time, what are the rents and how much rent you're getting back on that, and at the same time how much growth that area would have, so that capital build up over time. By the time it gets to your strategy of exiting the market, what you have gained over these number of years. What's your take on that? What do you think is hot right now, Dan? Give me the scoop on the
anything for you, buddy.
What should I put my money on?
Yeah, like you said, there's always going to be a lot of determining factors for where you invest, what you invest in. And there's a lot of different conversations that we could have in any of those avenues. Like even when you were talking about like long-term appreciation for the neighborhood, I'd love to have a conversation with you on like what that looks like and what you would look for to know that it's going to appreciate long-term, maybe better than another one would, right? Looking at one type of the market that I personally really like right now, we know, it's very tough to get purchase prices and rent prices to make sense with today's version of both, right? So I find density is the trick with that, right? If you could get something that's 2 units already, or if you could get something that's a single unit, but have the option to add in a second unit or add in the third unit. There are plenty of different avenues within Ottawa that those would work really well for. A lot of mature neighborhoods, no matter where you look, east, south, west, up just the city's core, are going to have those fantastic lots that are 50 by 100 or larger, right? And then the purchase prices on some of them, especially if they haven't maybe been maintained as well as others, are going to be a lot more friendly than certain other pockets of Ottawa that maybe have already seen a lot of long-term appreciation, or maybe have already seen a lot of densification. So to be able to put in a little bit of density where there's currently not density, and be able to benefit from a lower purchase price, I think that all makes sense when you look at things like how much money do I have to put down to get returns? How much do I have to pay to get a certain amount in rent? And on top of that, long-term appreciation too, because it is going to make the property more valuable.
And I think it's just the savviness of the budget, as you said, where to get it, as appreciation-wise, and then the savviness of the is that a word, savviness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're good, bro. Yeah. Let me check my dictionary right here.
So of the investor as well, right? There's a range on the spectrum, whether they're just newly wed couple looking into getting into being investors, and how much do they know? How much work are you willing to put into, right? All the sweat that goes into it, right? And that's always the range of making up for the lack of budget, and it all goes back to the risk tolerance of that investor, right? Do you just want to get a townhouse and just rent it out and you don't want any headaches, or are you going to put some sweat into it, renovate it, update, and then reap the benefits when you rent it, or years to come, just because of the couple of months of struggle we went through, per se, hard work to get that up to par.
Well said, Aboozar. If we're looking at maybe more experienced investors, or maybe at least their second or third transaction that they're making in the real estate space, so we're assuming a little bit of savviness, what do you like for that?
That's a thing. Like, I mean, I feel like obviously for us it's more straightforward when they're just getting into being learning, or it's the first investment property, just because it's a cleaner home to take care of. So it's just a matter of finding the right home, in the right area, so that at least the rent being collected makes sense. It covers all the costs. That's the objective, and sometimes maybe a little bit of out of pocket, considering right that the rents will grow over time. So those are the much easier to deal with. Then we get into the challenge of for example, dealing with working with a client of mine who's looking to pretty much convert bungalows into not only two but like four or five, sort of. It's just a insane amount of logistics that you go and so on me it's a lot of weight I need to really analyze, right? Yes, it's their issue and homework to get a designer, a planner, and you talk to the city, but again, there's a lot of weight on us as well to be able to make sure that the lot is the proper lot to utilize, as far as what they need to be doing, and little things like trees and hydro lines and things like that we need to look out for to avoid any sort of issues down the line. And then those are the clients that are, again, they have to be picky, right? So we have to keep looking and analyzing and so that we can find the right one.
Sure, a big one with that is zoning as well.
Zoning, absolutely, absolutely. So it's all the permits involved, and if property has been utilized and renovated and transformed in the same street, right? The streetscape has been changed, as they say. Easier for my clients to do what they want to do. If this is the only home in the neighborhood or in the a couple of blocks that these guys want to do this, then it's just a matter of a more hassle with the city of Ottawa. But the good thing is that all the new zonings that are coming into effect, it's huge. And we'll get into zoning in another episode. But that will have a huge impact in the flexibility the city will have towards these sort of units coming on, and it will be good for the market, affordability wise, for renters to get into better neighborhoods, and for investors to be able to diversify.
Now it sounds like these guys fall maybe more into the category of land development, Aboozar, or are they more?
No.
Are they more separating and maybe
separating? Yeah. So it's just the objective is to get more units out of the existing structure. So it could potentially be up. You have a side access with a bungalow per se, and then you open up 2 access points to the back, or an additional access point to the side. So that, again, we're getting complicated with this, but it's just to get more units, individual units. We're not talking about renting out rooms here, right?
Exactly.
We're talking about individual units. So the more logistic as to separating the hydrometers, the gas meters, and the fire retrofitting,
parking,
and parking.
So we didn't plan this, but we are talking about the same type of investment as well, right? Because that's what I like right now. What I find is a nice avenue to go with. So kudos to us, buddy. When you're working with somebody that may be looking for more of an established multifamily unit, so say it's already in a dense area of Ottawa, it's already to the maximized purpose that the lot can handle, whether it's duplex, triplex, fourplex, or more. Are there certain things you look for as an agent and educate your clients on? Are there certain financial ratios that you look at as well that you want to share a bit with our listeners?
I mean, it all goes back, and that's the challenge, right? When you're presenting or coming up with a new concept, right? That is completely different than the streetscape that offers. You have to look at the rents that have gone already. The units that have rented. Let's say if a single home is rented for $2,600, $2,700, for example, on average, then you have to really work your numbers to make sure that desired rent medium will attract enough tenants to be able to get the potential profit that you're seeking with it, because a lot of money goes into these. It's the purchase price, the initial purchase price, and then your spending time, a couple of months to get the permits going. The conversion happens, and then the time to rent them out. So we may be looking at anywhere between 3 to 5 months at times for this process to take place. So the rent you're getting essentially would have to make sense, and then for us to come up again, that's what we do, to come up with a number, a rent amount to make sense, so that the investor is happy. At the same time, we have the least amount of percentage of vacancy rate, right? Because you don't want to have the unit empty, in order to be able to get a rent that may not be feasible initially. So.
Yeah, I think it does go back to knowing your numbers as an agent, being able to give them a very accurate assessment of what the property would rent for.
Yeah.
Because you're basically in a build like that, you're going to take unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, take what type of unit they are. So of course, 3-bed, 2-bath is going to rent for more than a 2-bed, 1-bath. The upper unit is going to rent for more than the lower unit, right? Natural light, noise, all that stuff is going to be better with the upper. And then I would say it's important to get those numbers to a very good analysis, and then look at how those numbers compare to things like what your expenses are going to be monthly.
For sure.
Right? Because like you talked a little bit about metering. I've seen many rentals too where they just don't get into that process, right? And the landlord is going to include the utilities.
That's
and
it.
you want to
So,
know,
exactly,
you want to know how that
so
affects
that
your bottom
cost has
line.
to be, and there's always ways around dealing with that. So,
And there's always going to be hard expenses too of TMI,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Taxes, maintenance, insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Property taxes are never going away,
Yeah.
right? The maintenance is not going to go away even on a brand new build, right? I've had clients that have got brand new builds, and they'll tell me a year later, we love the build, we love the rents that we're getting. It's this close to making money. It's just that dang maintenance, right? Because something will always go wrong. And then the insurance is important to consider as well.
For sure.
Running those numbers, looking at gross operating income, boiling that down even to net operating income by getting rid of those expenses. And then looking at net operating income compared to the purchase price is a big one too, because you really want to know how that property, performing at its best value, performing at its best effect, compares to what other properties are selling for in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And that's it too. And there's always that argument with all these things considered, right? All the work that goes into it. There is appreciation, yes, that the rents are being collected, but at the end of the day, you have to realize, again, some investors are like, need to be reminded perhaps, is that what you're doing right now is you're converting a single home into three units. So based on that, what's happening is when the time does come for you to sell that unit, it will only be sold as an investment property, right?
Exactly.
No, maybe you're losing a huge percentage of the market, right? So they need to realize that, yes, the properties do appreciate, but it's the investors that will come after these sort of a property. So the economic standpoint, right, of the market, what's happening in the market hugely impacts these sort of properties, right? If a bungalow next to this home ends up selling in a matter of 20 or 30 days, something like this in a slow market, you have to be prepared to either reduce price or wait, just because you're not getting that investor in an uncertain time. Right?
I think there are a lot of things that are going to go back. Like we had a conversation in the past about preparing your home for sale, and we were focused on owner-occupied homes. It might be interesting to dive into preparing your home for sale as an investment property in a future episode, because I think there's going to be important things that you do for that as well, to make sure you do stand out in any market, right? You got to keep the rents up to date. The biggest thing, one of the biggest things I see, not the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things that I see when working with multifamily buyers is, if the price of the property is way less than the other ones, the chances are going to be that somebody in there is paying half of what they should be, or less than half of what they should be, based on market rent. one of the other big ones is going to be maintenance too, right? You got to keep on top.
Yeah,
of
I
the
think
big
there
stuff.
needs to be a percentage of the allocation of the money collected. You need to budget for a certain percentage for the upkeep of the property, regardless of how the age of the home.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then I've seen it just doesn't matter how savvy the investor is. It just sometimes it slips. It just slips away. Now, property management is good for that, right? Just because they're always on top of those things. But I've seen many savvy even investors that are, oh, maybe I didn't feel like increasing the rent. Yeah. Again, I'm not for or against increasing rent. It just depends on the financial situation. An investment property you should be making money on, not losing significantly or bleeding on year over year, right? So it needs to make sense. We're not talking about, unfair treatment of tenants overall. But again, an investor needs to be thinking about all those items of specifically the increases that is allowed annually by the Ontario government, so that again, as you said, the rents are on par with what the market is, so that when it does come to selling the property, you have something to show for it, as opposed to, and a lot of it happens, right? We go there, multi-unit, oh nice, the price, okay, they still want, maybe makes sense, so let's get into the expenses, and then the rent. Oh my god, like how many years? Like you got like 6 or 7 years, this unit has not been, the rent hasn't been increased, and then while they get, the tenant's paying 1,600, the going rate maybe 2,000, 2,100. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And you're digging a hole, right? That's what it is.
It can be a deal breaker. And I've seen many that are too painful to get out there and even see it in person, realistically. So more in a future episode. I know we're running likely a little bit long here.
A little bit.
It's been good chatting with you about this, Aboozar. Good catching up on just everything you've been up to, what the market's looking like, and then
we'll expand on this perhaps in the upcoming episodes.
Definitely.
And maybe a little bit more into multi-units.
Let's do that.
And so on.
Let's do that.
All right, man.
Good catching up with you.
Cheers.
Until next time.
Absolutely.